Hello class and welcome to Computer Science for Normal People. This class is an introduction to computer science.
Are we programming cool games?
Well, yes, programming is part of it, but computer science is so much more than just programming.
Wait, what do you mean?
Well, back in the early days of computers, programming was really just part of the job. It was something that you did to talk to the computer you were designing. As computer designs and software designs became more intricate, people began to specialize. Some programmed computers, while others designed them, and thus the two great branches of an ever-growing tree began to diverge. But that divergence of focus didn't remove the need for both branches to understand the root. Software and hardware share a common background and an endless relationship. We all will specialize, but before we do, we all need to understand computer science. The computer engineer needs to understand how to program, and the software engineer needs to understand how processors and memory work. All of this together, with a large Vegas-style buffet of other topics, makes up the field of computer science.
So we're not programming cool games.
Yes, we will spend most of our time programming.
Cool games?
If you're asking if we'll be making our first million on the App Store making games like Flappy Bird, no, not in this course. But the things we'll be learning are essential to understand before you can make cool games, or awesome apps, or program robots that go to Mars, or even boring tax software. This is the basis of all computer success. If you don't learn it here, you'll just have to learn it somewhere else. And we'll have pizza afterwards, so that's kind of an easy choice.
Excuse me, sir. Will I be able to get a job after this course?
Well, I'm not saying no, but that isn't the end goal. If that's what we were doing, this would have to be a very long course, and you'd miss out on learning from a lot of other mentors. This course is designed to help you. A, figure out if this is a good fit for you. B, prepare extremely well for college, technical training, or coding bootcamp, or whatever training you pursue afterwards. Or C, help to supplement that or any other computer training you decide to do. In short, this is training to help you prepare for more advanced training. It's so that you can show up freshman year and look like a nerd only the nerds can understand. And that's a really good thing.
My friend said I should learn Python.
My brother taught himself PHP, and he now has a job.
My dad says everybody eventually has to learn Java.
That's great that you already know the names of so many great coding tools. There are hundreds of them out there, and there are more every year. Sadly, there are also languages that die every year. In fact, it's very likely that if you specialize in one language, you will become obsolete within a decade and a half, and maybe even faster. The great thing is that nearly all of them rely on the principles taught in this class. If you learn this stuff well, you'll be able to program in another language after just a few hours of training. I've even had one class where we had to learn a new language every single week.
So why did you choose the 3 languages that you did?
You'll come to see that there's a lot of similarities between actual spoken language and computer code. Some languages use a lot of words to describe something that may only take 1 or 2 words in another language. But often that language seems more complex because the same words can mean something different depending on how it is used. We can call this verboseness. If a language is very verbose, it will take several lines of code to get one thing done. If it is less verbose, you might be able to get it done within 1 line. Most languages today are designed to cut down how much you have to type. And that's great if you're a busy programmer who's trying to meet deadlines. But it's easier to learn what's going on behind the scenes with a more descriptively verbose language. C++ is like English. It's old, self-absorbed, and far more complicated than it needs to be. It is very powerful at describing what you want, and if you learn it, every other language makes more sense. C++ was once one of the widest used languages, and though it's dying a very, very slow death, it is still a very sought-for resume item, especially if you want to do game development. People will be doing C++ for years to come. JavaScript is the language of the interactive internet. Just about every website uses it. But that isn't why I chose it. I'll explain a little more later, but it has an entirely different structure than C++, and therefore allows us to see a different kind of programming. Java, which, by the way, is in no way related to JavaScript, they didn't even know each other in high school, no matter what JavaScript says about their history, is one of the world's most widely used languages, because it can run on nearly any device. Many of your computer games and phone apps, and just about anything else was written in Java. But we're not learning Java. So why am I talking about it? Well, because you can't appreciate Kotlin until you appreciate the scale of Java. Kotlin was developed by some of the smartest Java developers in the world. They felt like Java was too verbose for modern programming, and so they researched to develop an alternative that could replace Java as one of the world's most important languages. Kotlin is almost the new version of Java, and while all I can do is guess, My personal feelings are that it will become the most used language within the next 10 years. It works on the same principles that Java does and can run anywhere that Java can run, and even in some places that Java can't. And get this, it's not verbose at all. So things that Java can do in 10 lines, it can do in 1. It may become the most important resume item of the future, and no one that I know of is currently teaching it at the college level. So when you get there, you'll know something maybe the nerds don't. Now, I've never used Kotlin before, but I'm really excited to, so I'll be teaching myself along with you. Now, that being said, if there are any Kotlin developers in the house, and you see me do something that could be done more efficiently, feel free to correct me in the comments. Are there any more questions? Good. Now let me tell you everything else that I wanted to say. This series is set up like one big classroom, with 3 new videos almost every week. Each week there will be a video textbook chapter. Don't worry, you won't have to read anything. That will talk about a programming tool without attaching it to a language. Kind of like talking about nouns without attaching them strictly to English. Next, we'll have a coding exercise where a guest star and myself will first work through a coding example in C++. Then I'll quickly show you how I would do it in JavaScript, and then how I learned to do it in Kotlin. On some milestone weeks when we've learned enough to pull all the topics together, I'll present a challenge for you to do over the week. Then I'll post one video of how I would have done it. Finally, each week we'll have a treat for all the good students. That's all of you, by the way. For those who come early, we'll have a bonus discussion where we'll talk about other things that are not strictly programming, but that will really help you in your future training. Things like, how do I find the best help on the internet? What kind of further training should I look at to do what I want to do? And where did the term bool come from? Believe me, you'll wonder that someday. Finally, I would like to introduce you to your greatest lifeline, fellow student, and our great guest star, my wife.
Hi.
She really is a normal person. To prove it, what is your degree in?
My degree is in interior architecture and design.
And how do you feel about programming?
I don't know, it just feels overwhelming. Lots of numbers, lots of random words and symbols. I'm doing this because I love you. I'm giving it a shot for you because I know it's something you're passionate about and I love you. Is that an okay answer?
That is a perfect answer. She is going to help keep me from talking like a self-righteous nerd and keep this class at a level we all can understand. That's class for this week. Enjoy your weekend and we'll see you next week.